Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. So before we begin today, I just want to say I do this every week, and sometimes there are higher probability setups than others. Sometimes there's just range bound, wah wah, and it's boring, but I need to talk about it because we always need to look at the bigger picture. But what I'm going to try to do in these videos from now on is identify up front what I think the higher probability setups are for each week, and I hope that will benefit all of us. So like last week, oil was, I thought, a higher probability setup than Bitcoin, which is still in the same freaking range. It has been every single week since I've been covering it. I might stop covering it so it gets out of the freaking range, right? I don't know. But anyway, for this week, here's what I see, and I'm just gonna say it. SPX or ES futures is very close to my weekly resistance, and I will talk about potentially how I'm going to take that short this week if it presents itself to us. And so I think that is actually a good setup from my perspective, but we will see, and I will talk about that. And then also I think there is a very good setup for more continuance in oil, and I'll talk about why when we look at the oil chart. So with that said, let's talk charts. You ready? All right. Okay, so let's start off by looking at ES or SPX weekly futures. So we're very, very close to this living with chemistry line resistance at 43.80 on the weekly time frame. So we had broken out of this bull flag, met our target here, and then at the same time pretty much broken out of this channel, and that measured move is this 43.80. We are very, very close to it with a hanging man. However, look at this hanging man. Look at that hanging man. Look at these hanging men. Like, there have been so many hanging men that are not dead. It's like, I mean, I don't want to get, anyway, it's another hanging man, yet another, and it's near resistance. So I think, here is a potential for a short. Now I will talk about how to safely trade that short when I look at the daily. Okay, so on the daily, we have met our measured move from here of this breakout, and that is 43.56. In fact, we closed Friday ever so slightly above it. But we spent the week, if you look at, it felt like Friday felt like, oh, and then it felt like a lot. But in reality, we just sort of like want the whole, this is all consolidation for something. Now it could be a breakout, and that's what I'll talk about. So I drew another line in here at 43.65 for Sunday night / Monday. And if it gets above 43.65, potentially to 43.80 or so, but then flashes back down into 43.65. So let's say it flashes up, meets the weekly resistance, and then flashes back down and gets underneath this. That to me, and specifically, and then here, 43.56 is also somewhere we're watching, which is another, this pivot, right? So I'm looking for it potentially to flash up, flash back down, and then take the short from there. That is one setup that could possibly happen, okay? Now, if it gets above here and it doesn't get back below here, I mean, this is also an opportunity to take a long. So I'll say that, all right? If you're very bullish and you believe that this is a continuance up, you can use this 43.65 area as and specifically 43.56 too, because they're both supports. Well, right now one is a resistance, one is a support, and it's sandwiched in between. So potentially this would be a good trade if it does make a move there. Okay, so now let's look at NASDAQ. Okay, on the weekly, remember how I was saying that if somebody says there's how X many in a row, so the odds of the next one, y'all don't know what you're talking about. This is confirmation of that. Yet another up week in the NASDAQ. But from a weekly perspective, we are still underneath this target of 15,209, which is why I'm not super bearish on ES at this time, because NASDAQ still has lots of room to grow. However, I probably will take that trade just as a trade. I might I might lose money on it. Don't know, but I'm going to take it because it's a good setup and it's my plan. Anyway, we're between 15,209 and 14,054, so we'll see what happens there. Let's look at the daily on NASDAQ to get more color on it. Okay, now I did take this previous downline, pretty much the only one in recent chart history, and I put it here because, in my opinion, if it gets above 14,184 and closes above 14,184, that's going to be bullish, more bullish for more continuation. And this next resistance, I took a good short there, but this next resistance of 14,879, if it hits it too soon, so let's say without going back down first, so let's say Monday, this is, even if it goes back down from here, this is not going to be far enough away for me to think of it as a double top, okay? So it's really, in order for this to look anything, this does not look bearish at this time, okay? But for it to look bearish, it has to close below 14,814 yet again on Monday, okay? Yeah. All right, now let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, like I said, so boring. Now, one thing I did do, because last week we talked about a range here, this box, when it closes outside of the box, then, you know, take a move. But I did take the same slope here, the monkey's banana slope, and I applied it to this previous low, and wow, look at that. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think to do that before. But anyway, this will give us an early warning sign. If it closes below 33.80, that is, in my opinion, bearish. It's already looking bearish to me, keeping it real. If I was bullish, I'd probably have more subscribers, but I'm not at this time. It's just not doing anything. It's consolidating above 36,592, and then okay, let's reconsider ourselves. Below 33.80, I think it's bearish, but other than that, it's just kind of hanging out here. And I did talk about last week why I don't think it's an H&S, Head and Shoulders. Okay, let's look at Ethereum. Same dealio. It's really just consolidating. However, I did notice something when I looked at it this week that I'm not sure I noticed before. And this is not technically a triple bottom, or because these are a little bit lower, but it might be close enough where this is looking more bearish to me. And the more bearish, you know, if it closes above 2781, it will look a lot less. There's still lots of room for up, right? If it closes above there. But for now, and y'all know I'm pretty risky, I want it to go down more and scare people and have people talking about the end of crypto times, and then I will buy the F out of it. Or I want it to get out of this range going upwards, and then I will buy the F out of it. But right now it's in nowheresville. But overall, it does have higher lows. But I don't know. No. Okay, let's look at GDX. A while ago, I had talked about an inverse Head and Shoulders. I had hoped that the 20 MA on the weekly would provide some support. I took a risk there and tried to buy it, but nope, got denied. And then since then, it's back tested the 20 MA. I thought maybe I potentially missed this dip buy, and it did kind of the same deal again this week, closing ever so slightly lower than it did the week before. But for it to keep this shape going, it needs to get back and look more bullish to me longer term. It needs to get back above the 20 MA, a close back above the 20 MA. In fact, so far, like I said, it's just rejected it. And even though this past week looked to be bullish for a while, it's still not doing the thing that it needs to do. And after this big red candle, in my opinion, it needs imminently, if we get a huge green candle this week, then I will reconsider this. But for now, it looks like it's going to either chop or drop to me. But if it gets back above the 20, I'll be tweeting about it, okay? But right now, I'm just, Okay, let's look at gold. Now, gold is actually above its 20 MA on the weekly, so that's a positive thing. And these are the pivots I'm watching for this week, starting on the low end of needing to hold 1766. And on the higher end, all we have to do pretty much from a bull's perspective is open flat, and this 1810 is a nice pivot for us to take a trade in either one of these directions. Absolutely, if this week we recover 1852, I will be bullish again, I think. Yep, sure will. But right now, from an hourly perspective, we are at an uptrend. We do have a higher high and a higher low. So I want to see it get back above this 1813 level on the hourly. You know, it's the 1810 here, right? And then if it can get above here and hold this line this time, the next time it gets above this line, I want it to hold this line. I'd flash above, down, flash above, down. The next time it flashes above is I'm going to want it to hold if it back tests, okay? Because it's done this too many times, and right now it back tested it and it's gone down. So if it gets back above, that would actually be potentially a good long scalp at the very least, and then set your stop at break even, or you know, at a back test of this, below a back test of this line. And then if it flashes, if it does that one more time, nope, no. Okay, let's look at silver. So silver actually looks less, I mean, gold does not look bullish at this time, but silver looks even less so. And although, see this crazy down week, in 3 weeks, we really just back tested 50% of that crazy candle, and then we've gone back down. So we back tested the key, which was 50% of that candle. Imagine that, at 26.94 this past week. This week, I'll be looking if it wants to stay in this channel and not go back down to this 25.395 level. I want 26.31 to hold, and it closed actually below that this past week, so it's gonna need some juice. It's below its 20 MA, but it does still have a backup plan here at the I think it's the 50. So we'll see. So far it's held this 50. It's below the 20. It's, you know, silver's twitchy, just like Natty is. So we'll have to see what happens, but I'll be particularly bullish back above 26.94 if we get there, for sure. That would be in fact, you know, that would be a good place to wait if you're a more conservative trader. Although I don't think more conservative traders trade silver. Anyway, I took this one down slope that I had from this 4 hour, and I put it here at this high, and what do you know, it worked again. This is a very good slope. I'm gonna use this more in the future, but I am a little concerned because from here, if you look at this pattern from here to here, up here to test and then down, is very similar to this here, up here to test and then down. So we are here, according to this piecewise analogous segment that some people call fractals, erroneously. Oh my God, I felt smart. But okay, anyway, back above this line, bullish in my opinion, although the key will provide some potential resistance. But if we, you know, for people taking the short, let's see if 25.39 is support, and then after that it's not going to be pretty, I don't think. So unless it just chops around, hopefully it doesn't drop. All right, let's look at oil. So okay, so last week we talked about this line as being a very good place to take a calculated short, and what do you know, it was, but it didn't hold very well. So if for next week, we closed in fact right below where we closed the previous week. If you're just looking at the closes and not the ranges, I mean, a very little bit of a downtick there. So I do not believe, the reason I think it's still a high probability for continuance is I do not believe that this divergence has been taken care of yet. I don't believe this little thing makes it like, oh, okay, and go back up again. Now, it's possible. If it gets back above if it gets back above 76.9, then abort until it gets back below 76.9. And then it's on like bangagong. I don't know the right words. Anyway, if it gets above and then gets back below 76.9, fair game to short. If it pops here but doesn't quite get to 76.9, I think still fair game to short. But if it gets above and it doesn't come back down, no touchy, hot. Okay. But I do expect it. I hope it. I don't expect anything, but I do think there are higher probability odds that it goes down this next week, or at least initially. Not initially, but at least for some period of time, it's not gonna just whoop up, in my opinion. Okay, it might, but no. Anyway, I've explained, I think, the setup and the risks. I hope. XOP last week, still very bullish looking. It did have, a 20 MA almost back test, but not quite. But we'll see what happens this next week. It's still holding above the 9 MA. It's still incredibly bullish looking just from a weekly close perspective. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Be careful either way. Okay, let's look at Nete. So I drew this line in so we'd have a weekly pivot last week, and we closed just below it. But then midweek I sort of saw this bull flag forming, and we closed just on top of it. Now, because we closed under this from a weekly perspective, I am a little more cautious for this next week. But of course, because I'm an idiot, I am long over the weekend, so we'll see what happens. But I think that potentially it does have a chance of going back down here. And here's what I was looking at. Here's this line I drew in midweek on the hourly chart as a head and shoulders. Now, if this had played out thoroughly, it would have gone all the way down here to this 3.40 area, but it did not. It got stopped at this flag area for the daily. It got saved and stopped. So, you see here, it got saved. So for now, we're still above here, which would be about 3.65 on the hourly. And, if it can hold that, great. If it flashes down and then comes back up above this 3.67, or, well, it's going to be 3.66 on open, then I still think bullish. But I'm ready for anything. And if I skedaddle out of this long, I will still attempt another dip buy at around, because it'll look dire there, but not really, around 3.48 or 3.47 area. I will attempt it again if I skedaddle out from open or, wherever. Okay, so that's what I got. Now let's look at Joe Coffee. Okay, so this past week wasn't great, right? We back tested this channel line. We got below the channel, we back tested it, and we ended slightly below it. But overall, it's still looking to me like a bull flag on the daily, so or weekly. I drew in this line just so we could see this is the same sort of line from these previous highs, and if it gets back above this pivot of 43.42, then I think it'll be uber bullish because it's getting above both of these. Now, as long as it stays below that, it's in the zone. However, the zone is a buy zone for a lot of people, as long as it is above this black line, which is about 40.88 or so. Okay, so overall, okay above 40.88. But what I really want to see is 43.42, because that I think will be super bullish if it gets above that. Okay? Okay, that's it. I make myself big. All right. Thank you again so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel and liking my videos. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Okay, bye.